Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. For your first time here, thanks for joining us. We talk about getting through life's storms with God's help. I'm Kevin Gregg. That's Doug Riggle. We're here to chat. We talked about a couple of different things. One of them is also about finding your life's purpose. Part of that is, trying to ask for God's direction with that. And I think part and parcel that goes with finding your direction is about what your work is. And I think that that's the thing that we're going to be talking about a little bit today, not about finding your work, but uh, I think it's about this. I think it's about seeking those people that you want to work with and to work for. The day that we're recording this, what is this, 1st of March? 1st of March
First of March.
2024.
Yep.
1st of March 2024. It happens to be Employee Appreciation Day. And I actually saw I actually saw a very good post. There's this guy I follow. I think I'm getting his name right. His name is Brian Creeley. I think that's his name. But he helps people with job placement and job seeking. And he had a funny little meme, which I haven't pulled up here, but it's a Bill Hader Saturday Night Live character, and the guy's eating popcorn excitedly, and the meme says, waiting for all of those companies that massively laid off people to see what they're going to say on Employee Appreciation Day.
Very true. Very true.
Oh man, I thought it's so fun. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but Doug's been privy to it, and Doug's been an awesome blessing to me. This last year, as you're navigating stuff, I do freelance stuff. I work for employers or whatever, and I've been trying to broaden my net with different clients or employer work or whatever. And holy smokes, it's been a challenging year, and I see that also with a number of people that I see online that are I've seen some stories, right? I've seen some stories with people that have one person I saw that had decent track record and all this other stuff has submitted to like 650 different companies, got through major rounds of interviews. He actually said he was put through 7 rounds of interviews. And then the final interview was like berated by the CEO for this very underpaying job, right? And like did get the job. There's another person I know that's done over 750 uh submissions for different companies and all this stuff. So I don't think that this episode is about, you know, oh my gosh, you know, it's so hard to find a job or whatever. I don't think that that's what it's about, but I do think it's about a couple of things here, which is, you know, continually seeking work, but then also when you're working with the right people and in the right environment. And especially, I saw this thing the other day too, which I haven't reposted it yet on my stories, but I need to. Um, it says, don't let yourself get so empty that you'll eat anything that's put on your plate. And and then that meme says, this isn't about food, right? Right. Because we can get to that point too, where it's like we're at a point of just like, and I think it's a couple of things. We're probably going to tackle so many different things in this episode, but um, one of them is about honestly like trusting God, and then also understanding your worth and your value, and
Hmm.
what that looks like when you're working for people, for clients, or working for employers, and also recognizing when you're in a challenging environment that you may be going through a season where God's asking you to grow and strengthen yourself, but also trying to find out like what's the difference between me growing and strengthening myself or me being, you know, undervalued and abused in a working situation. A lot of stuff to unpack there, Doug. What comes sort of top of mind for you as I bring all that up?
It's I've had one of those careers where, and I've worked for large corporations, I've worked for small companies, I've worked for nonprofits, worked for churches, worked for a whole assortment of organizations over the years. And it's not a it's a hard model to duplicate, but when you find the right set of people in an organization, that can make as big of a difference as finding the right organization.
Yes.
And I was just reflecting, I saw one of my old bosses, Lori, posted something today, and she was just an amazing boss to me. And even though large multi-billion dollar corporation, lots of stuff going on, she kept it very family-like. And her boss too. And we just had a good synergy working together. And I miss those days, even to the point where this is right when my son committed suicide. I wasn't reporting to her, I was reporting to someone else. We had done a reorg earlier that year. And she just called me up and said, don't come back to the company until you're ready. I said, well, and we were in HR. I said, what's the HR policy on bereavement? She's like, it doesn't matter. You're covered. You just stay gone as long as you need to be gone.
Yeah.
And that was just really good to hear. And I didn't, stay out longer than I needed to. In fact, after a couple of weeks, I'm like, I've got to, being by myself, I'm like, I got to get back to work. I need to have people around me.
Yeah.
But having those bright spots in your career just mean the world to you over and
Mm.
over. And I will say, I've got that now with
Mm.
my company, Centric Consulting. I've been there now just a little over 4 years, and they have been the most incredible company to me in more ways than I can count. And just through my cancer diagnosis last year, this time I was, having surgeries to have new stents put in place for my bile ducts and all this stuff. And right before my first surgery, I get this email with a link to like 20 some videos of people throughout the company, including the president of the company,
Yeah.
just wishing me the best, praying for me, encouraging me along the way. And that hasn't stopped
Mm.
in all this time.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's a
it's a great
very,
company.
that's a very, very fortunate thing, right? And I think
Yes.
that thing that you talked about, which is like, man, it truly is people, right? I love that the American Office with Michael Scott, saying it's not, it's not about profits, it's about people. Now there's a balance in this, right? Like
Right.
like you always hear a little bit of the pushback that I see with some guys who are online. It, there can become a little bit of the upside down toxic. Well, we're family. It's like, well, we're
Yeah.
family until you need to do layoffs or cutbacks or whatever, right? Or asking too much stuff. But I do think that there's something when you are working with people where you go, yeah, we're literally doing this together, or we're all focused on the same outcome and the same achievement. And we're trying to actually work together to make this happen. I think that that's an awesome place,
Mm.
especially when you are spending your time, energy, and effort on something, right? I
Right.
don't want to be, I think that this is a thing that I've experienced throughout my career. And boy, I've had so many of these, sort of ups and downs along the way. I'm not interested in creating junk food for the world, right? Like I'm really not interested in that. I've had that happen a number of times where, hey, it's just fine. We're just putting this thing together, or we're just throwing this thing up, or yeah, don't worry about it. And it's like there's part of me that goes, you know, I am spending time away from my family, my sons, any of that other stuff. And if I'm doing it, I want to make sure that I'm doing it towards something that I can get behind. And it's something that I just kind of go, yeah, I believe in this, right? Or I believe in what the idea of this is. And that's not to say that it's perfect, but I do think that people make up such a major component of that. Um, and I've had some interesting experiences, especially working in the entertainment industry, right?
Mm.
Because in the entertainment industry, and I'll still stand by this, but I think it's like it's 50% of the most incredible people that you'll ever meet, and it's 50% of the most evil, heinous people that you meet. And that's kind of the breakdown of what it is. It's almost like there's 50% of people who just go, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I love working with you. Let's do this." And then there's another 50% that you just go, "Oh yeah, you're not a good person." like like there's there's something going on here that's kind of giving me, it's kind of giving me the shivers
Right.
to be in the same room with you. And boy, that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to navigate. I had been in situations before. I'll just be transparent. Why the heck not? I've been in I'd been in situations before with Disney where there were sort of things that came down through the channels that were saying, yeah, we need to do a revamp of the show. And really what was happening underneath it was what they were really doing is that they wanted to drastically reduce the budget on something,
Mhm.
right? So they were doing a revamp on a show that I was involved in, and they wanted to quickly do this turnover and this new versions of the show that they wanted to do. And truth be told, in the end, they didn't give us the proper amount of time to rehearse and develop this thing, get it up on its feet. Um, but we did get it up, and it was it was good product, but it came at a cost. And I remember we had this one moment where, because the time had been so truncated and the budgets had been cut so much. um yeah, I remember once I was yeah, I came home from work and I literally threw up from stress. Like I was
Yeah.
just like, like I couldn't, like I was going, why is my stomach, so under the gun, because we were doing these overnights to get the stuff up, and really, you're really trying to get it up and ready. And then I remember coming home and just going, why is my stomach in knots and I can't, and then I end up just going to the restroom and just throwing up. And I just went, what is this? And it wasn't like all of a sudden, it wasn't like I was getting a bonus. It wasn't like I was getting a bonus or any of that stuff. Instead, what it really was looking at it through, you know, looking at it in hindsight, it was, um, you know, and this happens, right? When you get disconnected levels that happen in a corporation, especially a corporation as big as Disney, where you have these moments of somebody saying, well, we need to cut all of this stuff. And then somebody that's sort of in a higher middle management position that says, oh yeah, we can do that. And then they turn around and say, you guys have got to do this, right? And so like there's no connecting with the people that are on the ground that are actually doing it. And the unfortunate thing that happened in this cycle that I saw happen a number of times out there in several key departments was, you had a lot of really great people that they have this ethic that's inside of them going, well, we got to make this the best that we can. We got to get this across the finish line. And I remember I was having a conversation with another manager and was trying to express some of the frustrations that we'd had. And the answer that I had received at that point was, if we had not been able to make this work, they would have probably slashed even more stuff to say, well, then let's take out all these other elements, which would have, and that was at the point where I turned to the manager and said, I'm not interested in making junk food. I'm not interested in doing that stuff. And but the problem that happened at that time too was, unfortunately, you're rewarding bad behavior, because then what happens is you get this stuff pushed and across the line, and then the people that are further up the chain, without having all of the details, say, oh, okay, well, they did that so they can do it again, you know and then it would just continue on. And what ends up happening is it would lead to burnout, resentment, and really good people. And I saw this happen over a number of years, where number of people just went, I'm good, I'm out. And particularly with the and boy, I'm being really transparent on this one. So be it. Um, when COVID came down, there were a number of people that I saw let go that it was like my jaw hit the ground. Like I couldn't believe the people that were let go. And there was one guy that I knew that was in tech department that was there who, man, he made this post that was like so poignant. He said, he said for the last 15 to 18 years, I've given this company everything. I said no to vacations. I said no to being at kids' birthdays, at things like this. And with one email, I got let go. And in that moment, I was, it was shown to me, what my worth and what my value was. And man, that was a heartbreaker for me to read because this guy was excellent at his job.
Wow.
And I saw several of those. I saw several of those. And I'll be frank, man, there were definitely things where, in my opinion, but there were people that I saw get let go and people that I saw that were remaining and kind of going, what? What? I don't know. Anyway, that's a little bit of behind the scenes, right? And I think that that thing is that, but that comes down to I will tell you that the biggest things I learned from them is the biggest things I learned from those experiences were, gotcha, I have a specific skill set and value and worth that I bring. And it can be very easy to get lulled into, um, well, at least I have, I've got the regular paycheck that's here and, uh, I don't want to rock the boat and I want to hold on to this as best as I can. But I think unfortunately that's also not the way to operate. And it's also not the way to I don't think it's the way that God is calling us to live our life, And I don't mean to be I don't mean to be flippant about this. I don't mean to be light about this, because I understand it. People have mortgages and bills and insurance and all this other stuff to uh, to pay. Um, but I think that if you're not continually, even if you're in a regular position, and you are not continually seeking or looking for what that next thing or whatever that transition is for yourself, um, you're going to get shocked
Hmm.
someday.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get shocked where it's just like, well, I thought that this was going to be here forever. It's like that just doesn't exist. And I don't think it ever, quite frankly, I don't think it ever did exist, you know?
No. Well, that's why I'm gainfully employed. I help people through change. If you do not change and adapt, you're going to struggle in your career. Look at all the people who focused on COBOL programming for a decade of their life, and that's all they knew how to do was COBOL. And then suddenly new technologies took off and they were left behind. Now, during Y2K, all these little programs that were in COBOL that needed to be updated, they had to hire them all back for a period of time, which is
Mhm.
kind of, I guess, a little um, justified ha 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 to you on that place. But it's funny. I even had a boss. He told me once. I worked for him twice in my career. One of the first companies I worked for, and really sweet guy, George. I loved working for him. His wife Anita was amazing. He told me one day, he's like, I've made a career of doing what all my other peers hate doing. And he's like, because to get rid of me, that means they're going to have to do all this work that they hate doing. So I've made this whole career doing all the stuff that they hate and secured myself long-term position.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of brilliant. Now, whether he enjoyed his work or not is a different matter.
Well, I think that there can be in that moment though too, it's to have a I think part of it's about about your mindset towards it,
Hmm.
right? To kind of go, I, I'm in this new atmosphere for myself too, which is ultimately all of myself, what it breaks down to, it kind of breaks down to sales a little bit. There's a little bit of sales of just going, yeah, I have to do outreach to people. Like ultimately that's, that will be the stuff that I'm doing, which is like I'm genuinely seeking to make a connection with people to offer them services and tools and things that I have that can help them, right? But they're only going to know about that with conversations or advertising or marketing and sales in a way, right? That's
Right.
kind of what it is. And it's a new muscle for me to flex. And it can kind of feel a little bit like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to. It's just like,
Look at me, look at me, look at me,
right,
which is
right,
what
right.
you have to do,
Yes.
unfortunately.
But even that, even the mindset of it is to go, it's to get it out of that attitude of like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. Instead, it's I want to help you, which I
Right.
do, right? Like I legitimately want to help people. We both want to help people on this, but it's like looking at like, how do we make those genuine connections with people to go, look, you're hurting, you're dealing with an issue. We have, we have a solution, like,
Yeah.
right? And it's just offering solutions to go,
Yep.
here you go. But
Yeah.
but it's a different, it's like shaking that up and kind of going, "Ugh, I feel kind of weird, kind of reaching out and but you have to, like you
But
have
I
to.
do live for those comments that we get on social media or a post from time to time, like, you guys are really making an impact in my life. It may just be one person, but that to me is worth it.
Yes,
If we're impacting one person's life, all the better.
that's correct. That's what part of this stuff is about. And it's about seeking that. I just think that all of this is about trying to find the work that lines up with everything, right? And it's not like, believe me, it's not all puppy dogs and roses when you're doing your work. Your work at any point is going to become tedious. It does. Like there's parts of it where you just go, "Ugh," I run into it where I've got to do editing or doing social media posts or all that other stuff. And it's like, yeah, you can have a little bit of fun, but sometimes it's like you're dragging.
Hmm.
You don't want to do it and kind of go, I don't know if I feel it today. I don't know if I feel like I've got the inspiration. It's like, guess what? You got to show up anyway, right?
Yep.
And that happens with anybody, right? And heck, man, it happened when I'm doing shows down at Disneyland or anything like that, where you just kind of go, oh, I don't want to go now today. And there's people that just be like, are you kidding? You have the best job. And it's like, yeah. And yes, it's a fantastic job. And then sometimes it's a job, right?
Right.
So I don't know what it is. I think that part of it's about asking for discernment. I think it's also about trying to not. One of the things I think is very important to bring up in this conversation is to not get into a place of a victim mentality or into a bitter or resentment um, uh, cycle, because
Right.
that's not going to help you either, right? Because it's so easy to get into that. Again, I posted about this the other day, but about comparing and despairing. You know,
Hmm.
like looking at what other people are doing and just kind of like going, "Oh, well, they're so lucky." And it's like at some point you got to figure it out, right?
Exactly.
Like at some point you got to figure it out. I'm in the middle of continually figuring it out. These people that I'm talking about that have, submitted to 650, 750 different companies, like they're going to have to figure it out at some point, right? It's like at one point, and this is not to belittle what this dude was going through that he's talking about on LinkedIn. And kudos to him for having the courage to be able to share this story, but he's literally going through a laundry list of all the stuff. He's going through a laundry list of his qualifications, his skill set, all the other stuff that he has. Guy's got a track record, you know. Uh, but then the other stuff that he's coming in is like, I've got two dying parents. I'm 1 month away from not being able to afford the mortgage. I'm not, all this other stuff. And there's a part of me that clicks over and kind of goes, sounds like you got to start doing Lyft, or it sounds like you got to start doing Instacart or something like
Right.
that. Or it's
Something.
just like, you know what I mean? It's like, and my point with that is to go, believe me, I've had to figure it out for myself too. Okay, what I'm doing is not working, or what I'm offering they're not interested in. So I gotta I gotta revisit this and revamp and rework it and figure out what's going on. But you have to do something, because if you get stuck in the cycle of like going, I don't understand, it's not fair. It's like, yeah, life's not fair.
Right.
Life is not fair.
And I can't express strong enough the need to network and make connections with people. My great nephew has just applied for an internship. I was helping him with his resume. I said, "What's your LinkedIn profile look like?" He's like, "I haven't touched it." I'm like, "Get in there, touch it. Spend 5 minutes a week on it. Just 5 minutes connecting with people that you've met at the university,
Sure.
at places where you've interviewed at, and continue to grow that wealth of people, because that's been a huge lifesaver for me over the years.
Hmm.
I've now connected with, I don't even know. I've got actually more people following me on LinkedIn than I actually have connections.
Yeah.
So, but it's because I get in there every week. Now, the nice thing with what I do is I have new clients all the time. So as I get a new client, make a strong connection with someone, follow them on LinkedIn, connect with them on LinkedIn, and move on and keep up with where they're at. And I just had former client of mine contact me just yesterday, oddly enough, as I was driving back home from the hospital. And we hadn't talked in about a year or so, and just catching up where he's at, what he's been doing, and just good conversation. And was talking about, I'd rather be a Buffalo. And he's like, I'll look for that. He was driving. He's like, but that's easy to remember. Like, I'll find you and connect to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
great.
No, I tell you that's it. That's the thing that I'm discovering more and more specifically with LinkedIn is to go, you know what? This is just another social media opportunity, right? It's
Yes.
just another opportunity to be able, and believe me, there's some people that I have actually made some connections with who I have no history with any of that stuff, but there's people that I just go, I like what you're doing. And then next
Yeah.
thing you know, just sort of commenting on their stuff and having like genuine back and forth. And the next thing you know, and this has happened to me now a couple of times on social media, not just with LinkedIn, but also with Instagram as well, too, where I've gone like, oh, I've got like, I literally have some social media friends here. Like I have some people that I'm like, writing back or putting a direct message to or all that stuff when they're doing a comment and just kind of going,
Mhm.
it's kind of okay. This isn't killing me. And it's not
Right.
feeling icky.
Right.
It's actually feeling kind of genuine, you know? It's like, hey, having a connection. There's this one woman that she does specific. I'm trying to remember what her last name is. Erin, I want to say it's McCulpy, but I don't know if that's her last name. Sorry, Erin, if I'm getting this right, but wrong. But uh she's a Catholic woman that's on there, and she deals with food issues. Like she helps women while she's dealing with this stuff. The next thing I know, I see some of her stuff and I'm just like connecting and commenting on it. And it's like, yeah, it's like all of a sudden you just have like this ping that sort of goes back and forth, which you just go, yeah, I'm great. I'm in. I want to do it.
Yeah.
Erin McCole Cup. That's her name. Erin
Okay.
McCole Cup. So, but like again, like just pure examples of that where you just go, great. I dig what you're doing, supporting. There's some things that we might be in the same wheelhouse. Great, you know. Um, but it
Your
doesn't.
connection with Liz a couple months
That's
ago,
correct, right?
one
Went
of my
out.
coworkers at Centric.
Well, and that was funny, right? It's like you literally go out to New Orleans, happen to meet each other, and what is it? It's just having conversations.
Yeah.
It's the thing that you talked about on your LinkedIn, right? It's about sharing your stories. That's all. You're just sharing your stories, and you're just getting to a point where you share stories with other people where they go, "Hey, I, let's work with you." You know,
Yeah.
it's not
You just
about
never know
being.
what may happen.
You never know, right? But it's about making genuine connection. And I think that that's the thing that can really help you. And God willing, man, like if you're connecting with those type of people, you never know what that's going to lead to with the circle of people. What I want to be in, Doug, is I want to be in a situation where there's a project that I'm working on that I can bring in and hire the people that I want to work with. That's what I want. That's what I
Absolutely.
want, you know? Or if there's something that I'm working on that I go that I have the ability, if I know that there's a connection that can happen between two people, how do I make this connection happen? Hey, this person would be the perfect person to help you on this project, right?
Mhm.
That's become a very good 14 and 15 for me, right? A very good way of doing no. A very good way of me doing no is to go, sometimes I can do a no, but
I know a
here's,
guy.
but there's a solution, right?
Yeah,
I'm not the guy, but I know someone who I think can help you, you know?
absolutely.
So that's not a bad thing either. Any other thoughts on this about working with work working with people that you care for and also working for good organizations or good clients?
It just makes a big difference. I know it's like I care less and less about the financial aspect of things and care more about the people I surround myself with. And that's why, I mean, 15 years of doing a nonprofit and running the nonprofit and getting the chance to build the board with people who knew me and loved me and wanted to support me and build a staff of people who were like-minded made all the difference in the world. I never regretted or begrudged going into the office at any point in time, even though I'd be there sometimes by myself working, because I knew there were people surrounding me and people who were on the same page as I am with regard to orphans, foster, refugee, and at-risk kids globally. And we all had the same mindset. We got to travel together sometimes to different parts of the world. And we got to share our lives together.
Mm.
And that was just brilliant. That was like, if I could have any job in the world, that would be it. It's kind of like what you and I are developing with I'd Rather Be a Buffalo.
Yeah.
This started out, 2, 3 years ago of me hiring you to do some writing and help me pull this information out of my brain. And it just started growing and became something more than I think either one of us expected
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Amen. Couldn't agree with you more, buddy. Glad to be on this journey with you for sure. There you go.
You know.
So there you go, folks. That's a little bit of insight from these two goons today. Hey, speaking of making connections, you know what the best way that you can help us? Connect with us over Instagram at I'd rather be a Buffalo. That's a great way to see the latest stuff that we drop, clips from the show, stuff that points back to the YouTube channel. It's also a very quick and easy way to just start communicating and develop a relationship with us because we'd love to develop a relationship with you and keep you up to speed with what's coming down the pike with the stuff that's coming. So do that. You can go to I'd rather be a buffalo.com or easy way to do it. Instagram at I'd rather be a buffalo. Follow us, like us over there, all that stuff. That's all I got for this time. We will see you guys in our next episode. Thanks so much for watching us.